black and gold, so I did my New Jersey. I grew up in Trenton. I went to grad school at Princeton, and so for me this is very much coming home, and so it's great to be back here. And I want to thank the Purdue Alumni Club of New Jersey for inviting me, and I'm just very pleased that there's so many people here. My goal this evening is to just give you some snapshots about what's happening at Purdue these days. Those are all snapshots. They're not correlated with what I'm saying at all, but they are just pictures of Purdue engineering, so enjoy. We are in our, we're counting the days to spring break. I think that's an accurate description of where we are in the semester. We've got 6 days to go, 6 school days to go till spring break. So what do we look like? We are large. We have 357 faculty in the College of Engineering, and this year we have 10,152 students. This is a record high. It's the first time we broke the 10,000 mark. 7,300 undergraduates, about 2,800 graduate students, and in the past 5 years, the enrollment in the College of Engineering has grown almost 20%. So we are at the point now where more than 1 in every 4 students at Purdue is an engineering student. This has been an interesting period because of that, and what has happened the past 6 months or so is suddenly this is resonating enormously with the national dialogue about the need for more engineers, the need for more people in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and math in general. But in particular, calls from council on competitiveness, from industry, from government to graduate more engineers, and we're sort of raising our hands and saying, okay, well, we're working on it, and it is a great thing. One of the other remarkable things about our first year class this year is that compared to the class that entered a fall ago, 31% increase in the number of young women in the entering class. This is something that we have worked on for as long as I can remember. I've been at Purdue for 35 years, so that's a long time to remember. But 460 women in the entering class is 26%, and that 31% increase is something we hope we could repeat. We have a pretty good idea of what contributed to it. So it's a combination of messaging, interactions, timing of acceptances, the way we've awarded scholarships, and we're hoping that we can keep it up because we think it may just set an example for changing the face of engineering in some pretty exciting ways. I will tell you some New Jersey demographics. Our first year class this past year had 13 students from New Jersey. 72 students overall are from New Jersey in engineering right now. Total of 80,000 living alums for engineering, and 4,300 of those are living in New Jersey, and there are 1,100 College of Engineering alums in New Jersey. So, some of you are here, but there's other people out there that you should be going to find. One of the ways that, I'm not sure it's how we measure ourselves, but certainly one of the ways that other people measure us is by rankings, global rankings, national rankings. U.S. News & World Report is by far the best known. Our undergraduate programs most recently have ranked 9th in the country, and our graduates ranked 11th. Our School of Agricultural and Biological Engineering this past year ranked #1 in both the graduate and undergraduate rankings, and this is an enormous point of pride for an outstanding department. A lot more than numbers, and so what I want to do is just tell you a few short stories, profiles of people, to give you a sense of why I am so excited about what's happening at Purdue Engineering, but also just a sense of what's going on. And I'll start with faculty, world-class faculty. Great celebrations this past fall. Rakesh Agrawal is the Winthrop E. Stone Distinguished Professor of Chemical Engineering, and he was awarded the National Medal of Technology and Innovation for his work in energy. It was presented by President Obama at the White House. It is the highest award given by the president in technological fields. He's the 3rd Purdue faculty member to win the National Medal of Technology. His work is in energy, and an example which maybe speaks a little more loudly in Indiana than New Jersey, except that New Jersey's the Garden State, so it's probably relevant here too. He's been working on new methods at the chemical level of how you convert biomass to liquid fuels. And in particular, processes that let you build small-scale roving conversion plants. So, picture a truck or a bus. Instead of transporting biomass and agricultural waste material to large central facilities where however much energy you think you're saving, you just lost in transporting all of the waste. Roving plants that can then go to where the agricultural waste is being produced, and so you can produce the liquid fuel on the spot. Anticipated actually to save a lot of energy and be a feasible way of perhaps addressing some of the issues with biofuels. One of the other things that's remarkable about Rakesh is that he spent most of his career in industry. He was at Air Products. Came to the university because he was passionate about working with students, and so he works with undergrads and graduate students, but in particular, he's the lead on a program that's funded by the National Science Foundation called GK12. G stands for grad students, K12 stands through K through 12th grade education. And he's working with his grad students to help train them and educate them to how to be effective in going into kindergarten through 12th grade classrooms to share some of his excitement and their excitement about research in energy and research in engineering as part of trying to get a next generation interested in what is going on. Let me tell you about a student. Her name's Amelia Chiscon. I will tell you that is spelled C-Z-Y-S-Z-C-Z-O-N, just because, it's got a really easy pronunciation and a really tough spelling. She is a sophomore in this #1 ranked School of Agricultural and Biological Engineering. She comes from Chicago. She has discovered a new bacteriophage. So this is a virus-killing bacteria found in soil in a cave in Bedford, Indiana, southern part of Indiana. The cave is accessed only by an underground river. So there is glacial mud that has been essentially undisturbed and unobserved by humans for a very, very, very long time. And in analyzing this mud, discovered a new virus. It now bears her name. It's called Chiscon-1. This suggests that there's a lot of confidence out there somewhere that there will in fact be a Chiscon-2, a Chiscon-3, and Chiscon-4, and that's pretty exciting. It has been shown to kill bacteria that are similar to tuberculosis and leprosy. I think the excitement about a new bacteriophage is because we are in an age of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, so something that is new holds great promise. So 2 members of the Purdue community doing interesting things. It's not only our current students and faculty who are pretty amazing, we have some amazing alums as well. I will start by noting that I'm really happy tonight to be sharing the stage with Sunil and fellow dean at New Jersey Institute of Technology, and Sarah with a very successful law career and Cranard graduate. A couple of local sort of alums, John Martinson, master's in Aero and Astro in 1971, has been called the father of New Jersey venture capital. And he's the managing partner of Edison Venture Fund in Lawrenceville. He manages more than $650 million and has invested in over 170 companies maybe, 16 IPOs, 75 company sales, including investing actually in a startup at Purdue called Epic's High School Program, which is connecting high school students with community projects with engineering and preparing teachers to be able to bring community-based engineering into their high school classes. The other alum I would mention, distinguished alum, 3 degrees from Purdue, bachelor's, master's, PhD degree from Purdue, honorary doctorate from Purdue, bestowed upon among our most distinguished alums. Young mentioned that I'm a past president of the IEEE, and one of my pleasures in my professional life is on occasion when my Purdue life and my IEEE life kind of intersect, and it actually happens pretty often. So with a somewhat different hat on tonight, I'm just really pleased to talk about outstanding alums, to know Bob Luckey, who since 1982, is that about right? Yeah, and continuing ongoing, has been writing a column, reflections column in IEEE Spectrum, IEEE's flagship magazine, for those years, combining humor and insight in writing about just about everything that has ever touched engineering or been touched by engineering, and has inspired a lot of us, and in some of those dark moments of research or whatever, remind us that there are a lot of interesting ways of thinking. My favorite one is the one about VCRs flashing. I will tell you this simply because one of my hobbies back when VCRs were more common than they are today was to visit friends, and if I found myself in a room, a living room or a family room with the VCR flashing midnight or noon or whatever it was flashing, when everybody else left the room for some reason, I would go and figure out how to set it. And so, there's this trail of VCRs with their clocks set all over the greater Lafayette area, and I don't know if anybody ever knew how that happened, but it was certainly one of my pleasures. So a column about this hit home. A few more recognitions of engineering. The National Hispanic Business Magazine has now, for 6 years in a row, ranked Purdue graduate programs in engineering as in the top 5 in the country as places to study engineering. Aviation Week has surveyed recruiters in the aviation and defense industries and ranked Purdue #1. And about a year and a half ago now, the Wall Street Journal, unbeknownst to anyone, nobody actually knew the Wall Street Journal was going to rank universities, but all of a sudden they published a ranking where they had polled recruiters. The question being what universities and what programs are best preparing students to hit the ground running when they enter the workforce. And Purdue ranked #4 in the country, Purdue Engineering ranked #2 in the country, so that is also something that is a pleasure to a lot of us. We've undertaken a lot of, we've done things that I think all of you are familiar with, and we continue to have thriving programs in electrical engineering, computer engineering, mechanical, civil, aero, materials, chemical. But we've also undertaken some new ventures. We launched the nation's first Department of Engineering Education about 8 years ago. Faculty who are responsible for our first-year program, but who are also doing research in how people learn engineering, why people learn engineering, what affects perceptions of engineering, and it's really a pretty amazing endeavor. Has 60 PhD graduates to date, most of them working in academia, but some working at museums and companies. We've launched a division, an interdisciplinary unit in environmental and ecological engineering, and there are many departments of environmental engineering in the country. One of the things that we think distinguishes this is that we intentionally didn't form a department. We invited faculty from civil engineering, ag and bio, nuclear, materials, mechanical, industrial, wherever they might be, to actually join forces to build both a research program and curricula in multidisciplinary curricula in environmental and ecological engineering. And this too has been an exciting endeavor. And one of the other new efforts has been our global engineering programs, really working on providing opportunities for our students to have international experiences. That's the world they're going to live in. If you haven't been back to campus for a while, in the past 10 years we have completed 6 new buildings or major additions to buildings. We have 2 more underway. The electrical and computer engineering Wang Hall is going to be across the street from the current electrical engineering and materials engineering buildings, and Herrick Labs is getting an expanded new site. We celebrated National Engineers Week just last week. In fact, a week ago tonight, I got to be the judge for what is now the 3rd annual Engineering's Got Talent show, where our students have self-organized and perform whatever comes to mind to perform. I discovered that the best thing about being judge is that nobody asks me to perform. So I've got it all set up. I'm going to be judge for as many years as they'll have me. Before you leave, I hope you'll pick up a copy. There's a copy of our strategic plan. It's called Extraordinary People, Global Impact. And literally hundreds of faculty, staff, students, alums helped write this plan. Extraordinary People is really just hitting home that everything we do depends on people, that engineering is about shining in individual research, but it's also a team sport, and that these extraordinary people can in fact have enormous impact. The vision for the plan says we'll be known for our impact on the world, and we talk about our graduates who are effective in a global context, our research of global significance, and we talk about empowering our people and enriching our culture. The plan's written around 4 stories. I'm going to mention 2 of them tonight. One's called Change the World at Purdue Engineering, and it really talks about our research enterprise. New efforts, manufacturing is back in the United States, and interest in manufacturing is back, and so we have, again, an incredible interdisciplinary team of faculty and staff who are looking to define next generation manufacturing and what that means, and are having some great successes. We also have faculty who come from a lot of applications areas where they work in incredibly complex areas. So healthcare, engineering, defense systems, aerospace systems, transportation, energy, and they sound like very different areas, but there's a thread that runs across them. They're all complex systems, and they all have parts that have to interact somehow. And we're hoping that by actually bringing together the faculty who work across these very different application domains, that we will help uncover what are some of the ways of modeling those interactions in ways that we can learn from the different kinds of complex systems to build this. And that's also an effort that has been really quite exciting. You heard about Rakesh Agrawal and his work in energy, and Amelia Chiskin and her bacteriophage. One faculty story in the Change the World examples. Dave Ebert is the Silicon Valley professor of electrical and computer engineering. With enough money, there could be a New Jersey professor of electrical and computer engineering, but you know, it's not to be competitive. But Dave's the director of a center called Vaccine, which stands for Visual Analytics for Command Control and Interoperability Environments. It has very little to do with bacteriophages or bacteria. It's information. He has a team, computer scientists, computer engineers, statisticians, and cognitive psychologists working together. And what they are looking at is how do you take massive amounts of data and present it visually in ways that can help first responders and other emergency workers make effective decisions. They worked on a project over the course of the past year that actually never saw the light of day. We're all glad it didn't see the light of day. They were working with the Department of Homeland Security and the National Football League on evacuation plans for the Lucas Oil Stadium should there have been a crisis and a need to evacuate during the Super Bowl. And so some of the behind the scenes work. Some of the work that has seen the light of day is work they did with the US Coast Guard, saving lives, interestingly. Working with the Coast Guard to understand fatalities in the Great Lakes, boating accidents, swimming accidents, taking years and years and years of data, correlating time of day, weather conditions, location, whatever other information they could get about this, and use this, displaying it visually, to be able to help the Coast Guard redesign where they station their emergency workers, what kind of public service announcements, when to do public service announcements, and they're credited with a 37% decrease in drowning and boat-related fatalities on the lakes this past summer, and they were recognized by the US Coast Guard for their work. The second story that I'll mention briefly is called Always at Purdue Engineering, and it talks about the lifelong connection between people in Purdue, from young children getting their first glimpse of engineering to our current undergraduates, our graduate students, to our connections, lifelong connections with our alums. And so thank you for being here. And you've heard about a few of our alums. Current students. Hands-on engineering from the first day they get to campus. And so for those of you who were in engineering a while back, Introduction to Engineering is no longer a lecture course. It no longer has 450 students at a time. We actually have now the facilities in Neil Armstrong Hall of Engineering to have students work in teams from day one, learning about design and building things, and in the process learning about what an industrial engineer does, what an electrical, so that by the time they have to register, they've actually had not only heard about these things, but they've done some work. It's called the Ideas to Innovation Learning Lab, and it has really transformed our first year experience for students. We're not waiting for college for the Always story. I mentioned EPIC's high school program. This is providing, working with high school teachers to bring engineering into their classroom, both to give high school kids an opportunity to do engineering, but also to work on the image of engineering, that engineering is in fact about helping people and caring about community, and so there's some important messages there. But we also are reaching younger than that. This is a true story. Comes from a kindergarten teacher in Zionsville, Indiana. It's a suburb of Indianapolis, and first day of class, she asked her student, Jack, if he was ready to start kindergarten. And Jack replied, and this is a quote which we have verified over and over because we didn't think it was real. He said, "Well, Mrs. Townsend, I really wanted to go directly to Purdue Engineering, but my parents told me I had to come here first."
Oh my.
So we're waiting for him to show up at Purdue Engineering. The Always story is real, from as young as we can imagine through our alums. It is an exciting time to be at Purdue Engineering, and so I'm really delighted that you invited me to come talk with you to be part of this Always at Purdue Engineering story. I think the only closing really is hail Purdue and go Boilers.
Oh, yeah.